My name is Barnabas Collins. 2 centuries ago, I made Collinwood my home.
My love.
Until a jealous witch cursed me, condemning me to the shadows.
What have you done?
For all time.
Man, what's up with Tim Burton and Johnny Depp?
Well, what's up with them? What'd they do this time? Did they get caught like fucking on tape or something? What happened?
Might as well. I think they got married, man. They can't do anything without each other. I mean,
you know what? That definitely seems to be the case. I'm like, wow, when is this team up, this ultimate bromance gonna end? You know? It's like, I was like, wow, I guess they have to have a real stinker of a film on their hands before they go, you know what? This shit ain't working out no more.
You know what? I want a divorce.
Yeah.
I mean, damn. When they're not making movies, do they hold hands in the park and? You know, I mean, do they snuggle and watch movies together? I mean, you know, when are we going to get some story from TMZ about how some guy went up to their trailer and caught them in bed together?
I mean, right?
Damn, because they do. How many movies have they made together so far now?
Wasn't the first one Edward Scissorhands?
I think that was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one.
That's when they fell in love.
Yeah, exactly. Because you knew during all the interviews, that's all Tim Burton could talk about. Is like, when I see Johnny play this character is me. So it's like now I have a little bit of Johnny Depp is inside me. And I think that's where the love spawned. Right there.
Literally, maybe. I don't know what's going on with them, but
hey, you know what? To their credit, there's times when it works, you know?
Most of the time when they make movies together, it works. Look, all Tim Burton has to do is take Johnny Depp and slap some white paint on him, and usually that equals a success. I'm still waiting on that movie where Johnny Depp plays a mime or a geisha girl. Or
exactly.
You know?
I'm surprised. Like Johnny Depp didn't get the role as the Joker. I mean, it's like it would have made plenty of sense, you know. But yeah, you know, and yeah, I'm waiting for Johnny Depp to go. Look, man, I'm white enough. All right, you can't get any whiter than me. All right.
Yeah.
You know? When people scream "hot looking white boy," they're usually talking about me.
I know. Damn. I'm beginning to think Johnny Depp is an albino or something. I'm beginning to believe that Johnny Depp, he actually puts like skin tone makeup on. He's really white.
Yeah, I know.
Hell yeah. When is Tim Burton gonna make that movie where Johnny Depp plays a powdered donut? I think that they've made 7 movies together so far.
Holy shit. Yeah, that would make sense.
Not including this one. I'm not sure. But either way it goes, we're saying that every movie that they collaborate on has been a success. Well, almost every movie that they've collaborated on has been at least some kind of financial success. So what about this film?
This is one of those films where you look at the subject matter, and it's obviously based off of the soap opera called Dark Shadows, and you think, you know, just the subject matter of what, you know, Dark Shadows is about. You're like, okay, this is something that is right up Tim Burton's
right up his ass,
right up his ass, along with Johnny Depp. It starts off really fucking good, and then like the rest of Tim Burton's movies, sometimes it just completely loses its focus. And it becomes so just jarring. You get different plot elements coming in out of nowhere, and it just doesn't work with this film, which is unfortunate, you know?
Now, I'll admit, this series was out before I was born, so I don't know shit about how the story went in the original series, but I'll try to piece together what little I know about this movie. And that is that Johnny Depp is Barnabas Collins, a guy who is kind of a player who messes with the wrong chick one day, a witch named Angelique Bouchard, played by Eva Green. And she curses him to be a vampire and tells the people, hey, this dude is evil and we need to bury his ass alive. And they do. And he lays there for centuries until later he's dug up accidentally by a construction crew. And he finds himself in the funky 1970s. And it's here that he goes back to his manor only to find it taken over by his crazy ass descendants. And it's here that the comedy kicks in because, of course, Barnabas can't figure out TVs and cars and bell bottoms and afros and afro picks and all kind of stuff. A lot of people have a lot to owe to this show. Tim Burton has a lot to owe to this show. Let's just think about it. Hot topic. Wouldn't have it without Dark Shadows. The Cure. Wouldn't have it without Dark Shadows. Probably wouldn't have The Crow without Dark Shadows.
Bela Lugosi. He wouldn't have been born if this show wasn't.
Yeah, man. All that goth stuff that you kids love out there, you wouldn't have it without Dark Shadows.
The color black, it would not be around.
Black
Dark
crayons would not exist.
Shadows would not be around.
Dark or shadows would not exist without Dark Shadows. But no, so this show is a very inspirational show. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you have this show, and you have all these people who say they love the central character, which is Barnabas Collins, who played a vampire in the show, played by Jonathan Frid. Now, everybody's talking about how this was such an influence on them, but of course,
even Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp said that when this show was on, like, he was a big fan of it, and Barnabas Collins, like, when he was a kid, he was so fascinated by that character that he wanted to be him.
And lo and behold, he is him. So what I'm thinking about is that the show, that when it was on, it wasn't a parody. It wasn't a spoof. It was a serious, dark show. It was a very gothic show. And so looking at all the influences that it has, looking at all the people who are fans of it, you're thinking to yourself, man, this would be perfect for Tim Burton. And then everybody heard Tim Burton was directing it, and everybody said, of course he is. That makes sense. And then the trailer comes out.
Oh boy.
And everybody's looking at the beginning of the trailer, and the trailer starts out with it being very dark, very gothic. And then all of a sudden it turns into Barnabas Collins waking up in 1971. And lo and behold, it's some Addams Family fish out of water type movie going on. And all of the gothic people are saying, God damn you, Tim Burton, you betrayed us. You were one of us. How could you do this?
Exactly. They're like, hey, this is no laughing matter.
They're showing up
some
with
real shit.
pitchforks and torches at his castle right now. Come out, Burton. Come out.
There he is. There he is over there. Oh no, that's Robert Smith from The Cure. I'm sorry. Sorry, Robert. Just burned his ass.
Sorry. He wasn't
on fire.
Yeah, he hadn't made an album in a long time anyways.
They should record that one because it sounded great. His vocals were awesome.
But you know something, man? Okay, so you saw the movie. I have to admit to people, I did not. So you're telling me it's just what I thought. I like to be fair and say, listen, maybe this will be funny enough to where I'm not a goth. Maybe I'll appreciate that they made this a big fish out of water comedy and some sort of spoof. So you're telling me that, nah, it doesn't work on that level.
There's a lot of shit going on in this movie, and that is the problem with it. And I don't know, I'm not familiar at all with the TV series, but it seemed like they tried to take every element of that long-ass running TV show and make it into a movie. So the movie at times loses its focus a lot, you know?
That's what I know. That's what somebody said about this. I was talking to somebody else who had seen this, and they say the problem here is that you take a series that ran for, I believe, 5 years. So you have all these episodes, and then you give it to a director whose movies aren't very focused anyway.
Right.
And so when you know, that's a bad combination, trying to stuff 5 years of a show.
Storytelling, yeah.
Into a guy. It's like giving some guy a perfectly put together puzzle, and then he drops it and then puts it back together, even where the pieces don't fit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because, you know, the thing is, when you start to when the puzzle is being put together, you're thinking, wow, this actually could be a good movie, you know, because when I walked in, I wasn't really looking forward to this. I'm just like, and it was kind of sad because I'm like, wow, I remember when the days I used to look forward to seeing a Tim Burton, Johnny Depp movie. There was a time when I looked forward to seeing Johnny Depp's performance. And unfortunately with this, you know, Johnny Depp was the only one who really like stuck to his guns with this. Cause I mean, his Barnabas character is completely fascinating. And you could tell the guy's having so much fun playing this character that you're laughing along right with him, even though he looks like, Liberace and Nosferatu, fucked and they had a baby. I kept on, every time he was on screen, he had his costume jewelry on and he had just like this pouty looking face all the time. And I was like, oh, if my brother George could see me now.
I know. See, that's the thing about Johnny Depp. I'm making fun of him at the beginning of this review, but he will pour himself into a role. And I'll look at this and I said, if nothing else, Johnny Depp at least looks like this is another role that is such an exaggerated character that he will love it, because Johnny Depp does great with that. There's been a couple where he's creeped me out. That Willy Wonka was a little bit too Michael Jackson for me.
Oh yeah, that was too fucking creepy. Yeah,
but you have Jack Sparrow, and now you got this dead pimp right here, Barnabas Collins. Yeah, I mean, this looks like it's right for him. It just looks like the format itself is just, you kind of taking something that we're seeing a lot of today, which is taking that character and putting them out of their element and having the humor come out of that interaction. And we've seen a lot of movies like that today. And I mean, we just saw 21 Jump Street, which Johnny Depp actually has an appearance in. Another potentially cool thing about this movie, at least what looked cool to me, is this cast they have here, this ensemble cast. You mentioned that they have Michelle Pfeiffer as the matriarch of the Collins family. Got Chloe Moretz as a little bitch daughter, I guess. I don't know. Helena Bonham Carter, who is Tim Burton's fake wife.
Another actor who has their dick all up in Tim Burton's ass. Yeah.
I was about to say, his fake wife is up in here. Yeah. And his beard. Yeah. And she plays, a psychiatrist that lives with the family?
Yeah, she plays the living psychiatrist, yeah.
Who I love Helena Bonham Carter, man. Now, you're talking about Johnny Depp is giving his great performance. What about all of the other cast members? Is anybody else who's breaking out here?
And you know what? Helen Bonham Carter, she actually does a good job playing the Dr. Julia Hoffman. But as far as everyone else, that was the one thing that I was really shocked by, was this great cast that they had that they really underused. Especially Chloe Moretz, where she actually plays like the jailbait daughter. Who's definitely rebellious. She's almost like I was like, part of me was like, is she supposed to be like the Paris Hilton of this, of this prestigious family? It's the one girl who is eventually going to end up making a sex tape,
Yeah.
And it's actually hilarious.
Are you talking about the actress, or are you talking about the character?
Both, yeah. Yeah. Where I'm like, wow, they really play her up as jailbait in this movie, to where there are some scenes where she's dancing and she's like looking at the camera like, fuck me now, where I was like, okay, this is kind of unsettling. I know she's only 15 years old, but wow, you guys are really making her like a 15-year-old Paris Hilton.
When did they start allowing women of the night on estate grounds? Forgive me. My name is Barnabas Collins.
Children! Get away from that man.
He says his name is Barnabas Collins.
And I'm pretty sure he called me a hooker.
That'll do, Carolyn.
It was really creepy on some level, but
that's where the real horror was, right there.
Yeah, it really was, because you just felt uncomfortable watching it. You're like, I was fucking looking at Leon. I'm like, I'm just gonna look at you for a little while. You let me know when this scene is over, okay? Yeah. You're right. That was the scariest moment.
You know when the scene is over? Yeah. I'll tell you when they're putting Leon in handcuffs and taking him away.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, can I look now?
I know, right? Insert Leon pedophile joke now.
Yeah.
Man. But I mean, wow. But the thing is that something happens to her character. I won't spoil it, but it is so underwhelming, where when it happens, you can't help but scratch your head and go, okay, why did they just pull that out of their ass? Like, that could have been such an interesting character to explore, and, even with Jackie Earl Haley, where you're like, okay, wow, that dude is in a goddamn, Tim Burton movie. I mean, I'm sure they're going to utilize him because he looks like the human dog boy, but, you realize that, all he is really is just background. He's a character that just hangs out. He plays the Manor's caretaker, and all he really does is like mumble his way through the movie, and they don't give him anything interesting to do.
Yeah.
That's how it is with a lot of this cast, even Michelle Pfeiffer, where it just seems like, okay, maybe she's going to have something like important to do with this whole, story. Not really,
Wow, man. That sounds like such a Tim Burton film that I don't like that you're describing, man.
It really is.
A lot of potential that just screams, this is perfect for Tim Burton. And then when he gets it, a lot of underused everything, underused elements, underused themes, underused characters, and almost all the time, a script that's just everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, no. And it is. Believe me, the only really character development you get from anyone in this cast is Alice Cooper, who plays himself, because it's like, all right, just watching him, he performs during a ball scene, and it seems like, wow, I got more out of his performance than I did of any of the cast in this movie, because when you leave this film, you are really scratching your head wondering, like, okay, that movie felt really empty. It really felt like the only two key players in this movie was Johnny Depp and Eva Green, as far as like they were the ones who were really having the most fun. They were the only ones who really had anything to do in this movie, even though the film at times, takes you off the beaten path, to explore what you think you're going to explore, a certain characters, and they don't. They just completely drop the ball. They give you a hint about what the characters are about, and then they just leave it alone, which I thought, this movie honestly should have been. They really should have played the whole idea of Barnabas interacting with his family. Tim Burton should have looked back at his older film, Edward Scissorhands, and really analyzed why that film works. It was because Edward Scissorhands, interaction with that family, which was pretty interesting, and just that whole town. But towards the end of this movie, I mean, the movie comes to a screeching halt once it does have that, Edward Scissorhands type of ending. And people who see the movie will know what I'm talking about, where it's just, something tragic happens, and it's like the whole town gathers at the mansion, and then they disperse like nothing happens, and you're like, okay, what was that all about? It's like, wow, they really ran out of ideas to end this movie because it ends so abruptly.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that this would have been better had they played it straight?
You know what? Probably not. No, because if you try to rewatch that Dark Shadows, I tried watching an episode of it, and it was very slow, and some of it was very cheesy, and even with some of the dialogue, it's kind of laughable now. So them trying to play this, especially when you have like, Johnny Depp and this ensemble cast, you don't want to see them play it straight, because like I said, at the beginning of the movie, it was working. It just, as soon as they got into the story, it's like they just ran out of shit to do. They ran out of things to make this family really interesting, because all the pieces were set in place. It's just they forgot how to play the game all of a sudden.
Yeah, no,
and it was too bad.
Yeah, it might have worked. I guess that kind of drama might have worked, because it's almost I've seen a little bit of the series too, and I understand why people like it and why it's a big cult hit, but it's very melodramatic, and so that's why I was thinking to myself too, I have to give this movie a chance, because that kind of melodrama brought into what we have today, it's that people will get mad at me, but that source material is almost prime for parody, for making fun of. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it is.
For that.
It really is.
It's just too bad that it couldn't be tighter, and so therefore it couldn't have been more clever as a parody itself. This particular movie that we have now.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a shame, because they do give you the hint that there is going to be a possible sequel, but like I said, it's almost such a self-contained story that if they were thinking about doing a sequel, I'm like, they did it in the worst way possible.
Yeah, no, I hear you. What did the movie at least look good? Tim Burton at least makes things look good.
Yes, that's the one thing Tim Burton can do. I mean, this movie looked beautiful. I wish I could remember who was the cinematographer on this. But yeah, just the shots of the manor, they got all the shadows and fog stuff down to a T. And shockingly enough too, I think a lot of this was filmed on over at Pinewood Studios.
I think the whole thing was shot pretty much on Pinewood Studios over there in England.
Yeah, and they spared no expense, especially just the mansion has so much character. It is its own character in the movie. But yeah, just the cinematography was amazing. And it really does set the mood, watching Johnny Depp lurk around as Barnabas. It was really fun, because believe me, like I said, I was halfway, about the first 15, 20 minutes of this movie, I was really going, wow, this is probably going to be a really good Tim Burton Johnny Depp movie, you know, and this is the perfect subject matter because Tim Burton does know how to, you know, work his magic with subject matter like this. But you know, like I said, as soon as they dive into the real story, it starts to come apart at the seams, and it really does like come apart. You know?
Yeah. All right. So what would you give it, man?
You know, and that's one of the things. Like I'm probably gonna have to give the movie a rental, even though I would give Johnny Depp's performance a matinee because like he really is good.
Can you do that? Can you rate performances on a separate scale? Can you do that? That's crazy.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna be the first.
You're a groundbreaker. You're a trendsetter.
I got to raise that bar somewhere. I don't know where to put it, but I got to do it.
Yeah,
but no, I mean, but as a film overall, I mean, it is kind of a rental because I mean, oh man, it's so many wasted opportunities, and especially when you're sitting there just wanting to see a good movie, you know, a good Tim Burton movie. I mean, he goes back to slumming it, like with some of his other movies where I'm like, man, dude, you start off so good, you get me so invested. And then it's like you forget what the story is. You forget the character motivations. You just forget the how to end the story, you know?
Yeah, no.
And it sucks, you know, because it's happened more than once, and I hate it. You know, I hate it because it's like, oh man, yeah, you're jerking me off really good there, and then, hey, where'd you go? You know, like, what the
hey, Tim Burton, come back.
Tim Burton, hey, my dick's all white over here.
Yeah, wearing my Johnny Depp mask over here. Come on.
Yeah, I feel like Johnny Depp.
Yeah, hey, where you go, man? That's too bad. And you know what? I'm gonna admit, I was a little upset in the beginning when I heard it was set in the 70s, and because in the trailer they're playing Superfly and they're showing you the disco ball and the lava lamp, and I'm thinking, man, this ain't Barnabas Collins' time. This is Blackula's time right here. When we gonna get that Blackula movie? I mean, Blackula's looking over there at Barnabas in the disco, and he's like, damn, this boy done come in here and took all my white women, man.
That would have made a far more interesting movie.
Blackula versus Dark Shadows. I don't know.
Blackula is Dark Shadows.
I shall restore the family business to its former glory.
Burn, baby, burn. Fight on, Barnabas. Fight on for us.
And fight I shall.
Love me.
Never. That was a regrettable turn of events.
Are you stoned or something?
They tried stoning me, my dear. It did not work.
My name is Barnabas Collins. 2 centuries ago, I made Collinwood my home.
My love.
Until a jealous witch cursed me, condemning me to the shadows. For all time.
What the hell is this?
He's coming. He's coming.
Hear me, future dweller. What is the year?
1972.
1972. My beloved Collinwood.
The Collins family.
Who the hell is this?
I'm a vampire, madam.
Yeah.
He's just staying with us forever, is he? I like him.
Welcome home, Barnabas Collins.
How soon can the horses be ready?
We don't have horses. We have a Chevy.
I would like to offer this little tidbit about the relationship that Leon and I have as reviewers, is that I fell in love with you all over again when I was sitting there getting upset and you leaned over to me and went, come on, man. It's a Tim Burton film. You know he does this.
Hey, man, you know what? I was excited by the fact that, you know what? Tim Burton, I've accused him of doing the same things over and over, but this time he's breaking out and doing something new. I mean, this time, like, absolutely gorgeous sets and costumes. He's working this new kid, Johnny Depp. He's got a hero who's kind of a gothic, misunderstood misfit who dresses in black. And after about an hour, that's actually pretty good. the story just kind of runs off the. Oh, wait a minute. That's like every Tim Burton movie. Never mind.
Wait,
he hasn't done anything different at all.
Are you a previous regeneration of Leon from an alternate timeline? You know this isn't 1987, right?
Yeah. Boy. You know what? I gotta say that the way this started, I was like, hey, I'm feeling like Tim Burton has some new inspiration. It's like, it's sure, it's like dark storybook, but it had a slightly different tweak to it.
Well, it felt like Sleepy Hollow a little bit to me, actually, not in a bad way.
Yeah, not in a bad way.
You're like, oh, well, there's a big setup at the beginning as we see the whole story starting to play out with like, oh, this is what happened in the past. It's, evocatively Gothic in the right sort of way.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting to me. I'm looking forward to knowing what happens in the TV show this is based on and the weird, bizarre ways that soap opera ended up going. I'm looking forward to seeing the fun they could have with this based on this premise. But the problem is that Tim Burton does what he usually does, is that once he sets up the basic premise of the plot, he spends most of the film just kind of going to whatever digression happens to hit his fancy at the moment. And then when it comes time to wrap things up, not really paying any attention to what he's already established before on any level.
Exactly. Whatever universe he's built, he ain't paying attention to the rules of that.
He does not give a shit.
I mean, yeah. The funny thing is, this movie, I mean, I say trailers lie, but lately I've been seeing a bunch of trailers that I thought really were accurate or gave me an accurate opinion of what the movie is going to be. Not this one. You see these trailers, it all looks like the Addams Family meets Love at First Bite.
Yeah.
Just zany comedy and out of sync jokes. And it really wasn't that. I mean, it starts out with a fairly serious tone. And even when it gets into the humor, it's only slightly doing it. But it does reach that hour mark. And I checked my watch because it's probably about 50 minutes, but where the jokes started to be a little too goofy and awkward and falling flat. And
it wasn't even the hour mark for me, though, because it wasn't at the hour mark where he's like, for instance, brushing his fangs in the mirror and it turns around to show you they're invisible.
That wasn't. I thought that was an hour.
Was it?
Yeah, because I remember checking my watch.
Okay, well, there's stuff like that that's just
no. When it got to that point, that's when I was like, that's the point.
Trite.
That's where it's run off the rails.
Precious moments.
Yeah.
That you're like, wow, are the oldest vampire jokes that anybody has ever told. Even Soupy Sales would be like, really? This is so old.
No. Nosferatu himself would have gone, that is not funny.
And then when it finally gets around to having like, oh, now we're going to show you we've got money, they just watched The Haunting remake for reference.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I guess the story is, if you haven't watched any of the old Dark Shadows TV, the original soap opera or the NBC series that they did later with Ben Cross, which was actually pretty good.
I enjoyed the remake series.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Barnabas, he's the son of a nobleman, but there's a young scullery maid who's his age, who's in love with him, and he rejects her because she's from the wrong class and she dabbles in the dark arts. And he says, okay, fine, I'll show you. I'll kill your whole family and then turn you into a vampire, so you have to suffer for the rest of your life. Turns the townfolk on him. They bury him for 200 years until he's awakened to come back to the Collins family and Collinswood and reclaim I guess not his title, but his place in the family and restore the family business.
Only it's 1972.
Yes, it's 1972.
So insert music that was popular in 1972 in a, isn't this awkward?
You know what? The thing is, it didn't do the as much as I thought. I mean, it goes from, it being, whatever the Gothic time period is to, I guess, 1572 to 1772 to 1972. And I was like, you know what? Looking at the sets and the way everybody's dressed, it's actually taking a more serious tone with this. I mean, it's a little funny, but it's not going like, hey, look how dumb the 70s were. It was just like, this is the 70s.
It doesn't overplay it because it can't in that sense that you're talking about the sets and the costume, because the star of this film is the set design and art direction in terms of how Gothic it is, as is typical with pretty much every single Tim Burton movie ever been made. Yeah, of course it's not 270s because of that. But nonetheless, that's the majority of the ways in which they try and get the lamer jokes.
Yes.
But thank God, and I know I hate to think you're probably going to disagree with me on this because I know you get upset with Johnny Depp being in films, like playing like exaggerated characters, but He is the saving grace of this movie, if there is one at all.
Cyrus, God damn it! I was going to say the same thing.
Really?
Yes. You know what? However much I was sick of Johnny Depp before, something about this year has been part of last year, has been my turnaround with Johnny Depp. I loved him in I love the Rum Diaries. I love 21 Jump Street. And I dug him in this. I mean, he really, if there was a saving grace to this movie, it was him.
Yeah, his vampire is every bit as exaggerated as his Pirates of the Caribbean character is. I mean, it is that, like, so many little affectations and movements, and he's so, he's what's the word I'm looking for? He's hysterically exaggerated to watch. And he gets every little motion. His whole body is into it. Like, he doesn't miss a trick. And it works.
It does. And the lines he has to deliver. Some of the best comedy is just like these ancient curses that he has for people.
Yeah.
It's and just the way he reacts. I mean, it's too bad that there's too often nothing for him to say, so he just has to mug at the camera.
And yet it works, kind of.
Most of the time it does.
Given the crazy makeup they have on him and everything, most of the time you laugh at him with it, because in a weird sort of way, he's the avatar for the audience.
Right.
In a weird sort of way.
In a weird way, yeah. He is who you look through.
He's the most sane one out of all of them.
I mean, Tim Burton can't help but go back to his old tricks of having like a Beetlejuice type family where, they're completely out of it, but you have the one kid who's just a little sweet kid who can talk to ghosts, which it's funny how much the movie, like when they get to 1972, how much it's all about him. We have to hire this new governess because this kid is crazy. And then he disappears out of the film for about 40 minutes.
Yeah, I forgot.
You forgot he was in it.
Yeah, at all. I mean, in the context of it being based on a soap opera, I'd be like, okay, well, maybe if they were trying to cover previous storylines, and I admit I'm not really familiar with Dark Shadow's story, but somewhat, a little. I've read the Wikipedia complete plot synopsis. I'm like going, of all the storylines you could have followed, you don't want to do the one about the governess going back in time? No? That would have been cool. I would have liked that.
None of that.
No.
Yeah, that whole thing with the governess, it's such a focus on her, and yet...
Well, because she's obviously the reincarnation or something
of Josette,
of Josette, the woman he loved, who the evil witch played pretty well by Eva Green, I thought.
If you and I disagree on anything, it's that.
Okay, see, I thought she did this weird effective mix between being really sexy and being really disturbingly psycho, where they would, and part of that was the way Tim Burton chose to shoot her. He would do these angles where, like, she'd be sexy for a second and then the angle would change and she'd just look like your worst bipolar girlfriend nightmare.
So you are the one who has sent the Collins family business into the abyss.
They love me here.
Is that so? And do the good people of Collinsport know that their beloved Angie is a whore of Beelzebub?
Do you really think anyone would believe a word you said? I've been an upstanding member of this community for 200 years, in one form or another.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I guess when the ancient, the Gothic version of her, I thought was sexy and sympathetic. And then when I switched to the newer Angie, the one who's running the town, the savvy, psychotic businesswoman, whenever she talked, that accent she was using, it was just so not working for me. Yeah. And I don't know, just everything about her, I was like looking at her, I was like, damn, I know she's supposed to be sexy, and yet I'm just not feeling it.
I don't know. It came and went. She played recently Morgan Le Fay in a I forget what channel it was, but in a show called Camelot, which was a new King Arthur adaptation that sadly only got one season because it was one of those ones that got better as it went along. And she was one of the best things about it. She was terrific in it. So seeing her play another evil witch, not really a stretch. But they misused her relationship with Johnny Depp's character, with Barnabas Collins, so badly that it ruins any impact of drama that the rest of the film has. I mean, it is the biggest mishandling I think this whole film has, because it's, you keep wondering, why do you keep hanging, why don't you just kill this bitch? Yeah. Why don't you at least try to kill this, but you keep saying you're going to, and the movie's answer is, well, because he's a horny guy. And like, that's not acceptable considering what he knows is happening here. It's not acceptable at all. And the film's filled with moments like that you go, but why wouldn't you do? Because Tim Burton doesn't give a shit. He cares more about his set design and his art direction and the weird little gothic-y moments than he does about whether or not a story actually makes sense or characters seem like real people.
Yeah. The characters don't seem real at all. And it's especially annoying because what he really is missing is a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
It's like that there's a setup for what needs to happen and everybody's motivation. And then somewhere in the second reel, that kind of goes out the window. It loses out to just little funny gags and set pieces that he's like, ooh, I can't wait to put this in there. And then by the time it's like, okay, now it's time to wrap this up and make it all mean something, he can't make it mean anything. It's a bunch of people firing at each other, tossing each other around, acting like they're scared, but not having powers they didn't have before.
It's the Haunting remake. Once again, that's what it is entirely. As well as, like you said, people having powers they didn't have before. There's so many characters in here that are so just, why are they even in this film?
Johnny Lee Miller, for one.
Johnny Lee Miller, who's given barely anything to do, and then is shuffled off. Like, okay.
Unceremoniously.
Even when the movie was like, yeah, we don't even know why you're in this film. Helena Bonham Carter appears to be only in the film so they can set up a sequel if they need to at some point. Chloe Moretz, who seems like she's going to be one of the more interesting central characters in the film when you set up because A, she's Chloe Moretz and she's got a lot of heat on her right now.
Yeah.
B, she's turning into a not awkward looking teenager.
Right.
And she's playing the girl who's the link between the modern day and the past of Collinwood in some ways. And yet, she's totally not used at all except to sit and say the occasional snarky line like any given sullen teenager until the end, in which you're like, where the fuck did that come from?
Yes.
Oh yeah, this is Dark Shadows. Shit like that just happens. Like, okay, sure, but it should actually serve a purpose in the greater storyline. Or have some sort of cool moment with it.
That's the thing. It's so tacked on. Like, it comes out of nowhere. It's tacked on. A big deal's made out of it, and yet it kind of goes away and means nothing.
Yeah, it means nothing. It has no impact at all. It was pointless.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on throughout this film. I mean, I'll give credit to Michelle Pfeiffer. It looked like she was really trying.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Then you feel bad for her?
I totally felt bad. She wanted this to be a good movie. Oh, man. She's like, I haven't worn this much like Gothic clothes since the last time I was in a Tim Burton
movie. Okay, she hasn't done anything with him since Batman Returns.
I don't
right?
think so, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Jackie Earle Haley, who is once again like so misused. Here's a great actor who's left to walk around pretty much like a zombie, a drunken zombie the whole film, and not to funny effect.
Right.
You know, we know he's a really good actor, so what the fuck?
I'm telling you, man, it so made me miss the days of Ben Cross when he had his, the guy he had, Willie, his familiar. He used to just batter him and abuse him all the time.
Yes.
Willie! Every time I hear that, I'm like, oh shit, Willie, run, man, run!
Alice Cooper, who's in this movie, playing himself only so that you can use the same "that's a girl's name" joke 4 times.
Man, okay. Okay, you think this is a movie? And it is until it stops to become an Alice Cooper concert movie. Because it really just stops so he can sing 3 songs.
And I think they literally had to drip some virgin blood in Christopher Lee's mouth to wheel his ass out at one point, just in a sad moment, because he's so old. He doesn't know what's happening.
Man, you know what?
Just to be like, oh, he's the classic, the last living early vampire guy. Oh, man, put him back.
Now, see, you say that, but I got excited to see Christopher Lee. I was like, man, you know what? He's still in there plugging away. And looks better than Alice Cooper at this point.
He does, kind of.
Like Alice Cooper, you're like, oh, he looks the same till they get close up. You go like, wow, he's looking, those old tight clothes are kind of baggy on him now.
Yeah, a little bit. It's like, wait, this is supposed to be 1972, Alice Cooper? It's a good thing Tim Burton's making this, since he puts that Olin Mills soft focus on absolutely everything anyway.
Yeah, man. I mean, I give it to Barnabas for walking around like a pimp.
Yeah.
You go, this guy's cool. You get some of the best jokes are given away in the trailer, and they're given it away in such a way that makes them look like they're not funny.
Yeah.
But, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen the scene with him and the hippies. And it's one of those, like, just at the point where it's starting to get on my nerves, it has just one of the best punchlines to it. And there was all that stuff that was happening in the front. I was like, this is surprising me. Come on, man. You can make this work. This can be your one. This can be the one that shuts me up and go, Tim Burton, you all right. You still got it.
It wasn't.
No. Damn it.
But the thing is, even in the third act, there are moments that you're like, oh, that was funny, or oh, that was kind of cool looking. There'd be little bits and pieces here and there. They just decreased as the film went along.
They did.
Because, you know, I mean, how you can have all the cool stuff you want like that, but if ultimately you felt like, why did I even watch this movie? What was the point of this movie? What story were you trying to tell me? Then I don't have an answer for you. I mean, how am I supposed to like this? How am I supposed to give this a good review when you yourself don't seem to really care? It's like you're the guy who just puts up all the little shit in the Hot Topic store. You're not a director. You know?
Yeah, I don't know who can be paired up with Tim Burton that can take over the film, like, once he loses interest in it.
I mean, let the guy continue to direct. I don't have a problem with that. But he needs somebody who is the, you're not allowed to fuck with what this guy says writer, who's really good. You know, like, put him with Neil Gaiman. Those guys would probably be a great team together.
You gotta wonder why they haven't worked together already.
You, like, take one of the best writers of sort of Gothic-y type material, put it with a guy who totally gets the visuals behind it, and let them, like, sort that shit out.
Yeah.
I don't know, but because Burton, like, I don't know what, you know, I mean, he's not even listed in the screenplay or the story, but every single time it has those distinctive Burton marks of like he just doesn't give a shit about the actual story.
It's funny you brought up Sleepy Hollow, because I was like, that so is another one of those where I was just like, it's following so many of these same beats and it looks great, but there's that point where you're supposed to care about it's supposed to be moving. And it just feels like it's meandering.
Yes.
And, it's just for a movie that I was so, like, enjoying and looking forward to the next scene and what was Johnny Depp going to do next. It turned into one of those where I was like, can this be over soon?
Oh, and it wasn't. It was 2 hours, I think, at least.
Well, it started late, so probably just short of 2 hours.
Pretty sure checking it was 113 minutes.
Yeah.
So barely short of, and it feels like there's, you know, it's not even in the third act before you're checking your watch going, is this going to wrap up sometime soon? Because I was going to go torture myself. I don't know. I wish this starts out with so much hope, so much promise.
Yeah.
You know, despite my instinct that, like, why do I let Tim Burton keep doing this to me? But you go in, we're critics. That's what we do. We try and keep an open mind. And it burns you. And it's unfortunately not much more than a rental. I didn't even like it as much as Alice in Wonderland.
Really?
Yeah. Which I didn't really like either, but I didn't even like it as much as that.
I suppose, for me, Alice in Wonderland just turned me off so early in the movie and never won me back.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, this is more of a heartbreak because I did like it so much when it started up until that point when I didn't like it anymore at all. But yeah, it filters down to being a rental.
It's a shame because it's stuff that's beautiful, looks really good on the big screen. But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're never going to talk the people who want to see this movie
out of seeing this
movie. You're never going to, because Tim Burton fans are like the most. We're going to get so many people who are mad at me specifically because they never get mad at you for whatever.
They get mad at me all the time.
Do they?
Yeah.
My eyes pass over those parts again. I just scan the page for Cyrus.
Maybe they don't get mad at me. They just laugh at me and keep on going.
Yeah.
But you actually incite anger.
Yeah, I incite anger. Something about my tone.
You sound like you think you know more than everybody else. Well, that's your problem.
I don't. I fully admit that I don't. Probably more than some of the people get mad at me, but...
Love me.
Never. That was a regrettable turn of events.
Are you stoned or something?
They tried stoning me, my dear. It did not work.